Welcome back to another week of Dining Room Devos with Pastor Jeff Estep. Thank you so much for joining us today. Last time we looked at Peter's instruction to submit to the authority of government leaders. Today we're going to take that same kind of concept and we're going to move it into the workplace. We're looking at 1 Peter 2, verses 18 through 20. Slaves, submit yourselves to your masters with all respect, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. For it is commendable if a man bears up under the pain of unjust suffering because he is conscious of God. But how is it to your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and endure it? But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, this is commendable before God. Now, Peter here is writing to slaves, and in America, our understanding of slavery is impacted by our nation's unfortunate experience with it, which was tragic and was based on racial oppression. And we might struggle with Peter telling Christian slaves to obey their masters, almost as if slavery is somehow okay. But for the first century Christians that Peter is writing to, slavery was just a reality in those days. Slavery is quite common in the Roman Empire. In fact, it's been estimated that there were more slaves than there were free people. That slavery in the Roman Empire was not based on race. In fact, some slaves owned property and many lived better than a lot of free men and women did. Now, we're not at all saying that the slavery was somehow good there. I mean, slavery is an abhorrent institution, regardless of when and where it exists. The idea that one person should own another person is simply not Christian. The gospel teaches that all people are equal. But the first century Christians that Peter writes to were powerless to get rid of slavery. And so Peter addresses how slaves should behave as people who were free in Jesus Christ, yet who were under the authority of human masters. Some slaves that Peter writes to had kind and considerate masters. Some of them may have even been Christians, but others had masters that were cruel and unfair. In fact, the Greek word that's translated as harsh in verse 18 literally means crooked. Peter's instruction to them is to obey, out of love for Jesus, regardless of the character of your master. Now, Jesus in Luke 6:32 asked what credit we should get if we love only those who love us. Peter uses the same kind of language here. He says, if you endure unfair treatment with integrity, you get credit. Credit with who? Well, possibly with your master, but more importantly with God. And the larger passage we've been looking at is about submitting to earthly authorities out of love for God. We're told that we will be rewarded for honoring God, even if it involves short-term suffering. Now, none of us watching this video are slaves, but a framework that we can use to understand this passage is our workplace relationships. I mean, most of us work for someone, right? And the principles that Peter addresses here apply to those workplace relationships. Bottom line, we should work hard when we're at work. Paul says this in Colossians 3:23 and 24. He says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for men, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ that you are serving. We should work hard. If our boss is kind, it might be easy to work well. But even so, you're not working for him or her. You're working for Jesus Christ. And you may say, yeah, Jeff, but my boss is a real jerk. Well, guess what? This is your opportunity to be a witness by working for Christ and by showing your boss maybe more respect than they might give you. In verse 20, Peter asked the question, if you're punished for doing something that's wrong, what credit will you get? I mean, what if you don't like your boss and you decide you're going to respond by not working hard or maybe even by telling him off and you get written up? Will anybody feel sorry for you? Or will God reward you if you're punished but you deserved to be punished? The message here is do the best you can. And if you're treated unfairly despite your hard work, trust that God sees your work and your desire to please him, and he will reward you in good time. The world would say that if you're mistreated, you should fight back. But Jesus said to love your enemies and to pray for those that persecute you. Now, I certainly hope you don't see your boss as your enemy, but regardless of the quality of your relationship with him or her, you are given the privilege to love them, no matter what. You're given the privilege to pray for them. And through your work and your witness, you just might have an impact on them. One final point. Remember that Peter's larger point is that we're not citizens here, but we're looking forward to the joys of heaven. I mean, the hope of our salvation gives us strength to endure here, even enduring unfair treatment from others. So don't worry about the trials of earth. Your treasure is in heaven. Buffalo Bills offensive lineman Glenn Parker was once asked why NFL linemen tend to be cheerful people. His response was great. He said, "There are not a lot of well-paying jobs for 300-pounders. We found one, and we're happy about it." Whatever your work, may you find joy in it. We serve a wonderful master who loves us and who will reward us for our faithfulness. Thanks for watching our video. If you haven't, feel free to subscribe. You can like and comment on this video. Visit us at newparisfirst.com. See what's happening at our church. May God bless you. We'll see you next time on Dining Room Devos.